So yesterday I was using the Light 348 brush mulcher, and I was in some thick stuff. It was a really hot day, and I was watching the temperature gauge on the Kubota, and it was staying right at the center. But I was in the woods, there was no wind movement, and I was constantly just working the tractor to its limits, and it was also stalling out a few times. When you're using the brush mulcher, if you back up too fast, or even if you back up slow, it actually catch branches and tree trunks and pull them in. And you can't stop that. There's no way you can make that go slower. So I would stall out the tractor occasionally. The tractor was running fine. It wasn't overheating. But then when I was done and I was driving to the house for lunch, I got a surprise. All right, I've got the camera focused on the dash. And if you look right here on the bottom right, you're gonna see two lights, and I'll tell you what those red lights do. Okay, here we go. I'm going to turn on the key. So you see at the bottom there was an orange light and there's a red light. So that orange light is when your emissions on your tractor, when your engine's just running too hot. So I've gotten that orange light before, and when I got it before, it was because the screen in front of the radiator had clogged up a little bit, and it wasn't getting good airflow. And even though the tractor wasn't overheating, it was staying more close to the top, to the hot, than it was in the center where it should run. And I got that warning light, and I cooled the tractor down, and I read up on it real quick and found out that that's what causes it. So once you clear the radiator and the tractor can cool itself back down to about middle way on the gauge, then I had no more issues. And that was last summer. Well, yesterday when I was brush mulching, like I said, I was really working the tractor right to its limits. And when I drove back to the house to get lunch, I got a red light. And that red light it looks like kind of like an engine with an exclamation point in it. And there's a couple things that could be. Now here on the dash of this L3901, there's that red light. And if you get that red light and beeping, you have to do a parked regen. So I turned off the tractor and I was just sick inside. I was like, oh man, I have broken my tractor and I'm gonna have to take it to the dealer. That was my first thought. But I blew it all off with the leaf blower and got the radiator really clean and blew off everything off the engine. And I paid a lot of attention, blowing a lot of air on the transmission, and just got that clean and just pushed air across it. And the light actually went out, and the tractor seemed to run fine, but it threw a code, and that code was like, I think it was 336. I'll put on the screen what the actual code was. I looked up online what that code meant, and it was like something to do with crankshaft position indicator or something like that. But people were getting the same error code in this same model tractor, 2017 Kubota L3901. The dealer was telling them that it was a software glitch, and basically if the tractor gets under like 700 RPM or so, it'll throw this code. It doesn't hurt the engine, but I think it is an indication that you're working the tractor really hard and stalling it out. So this area was really thick. I mean, you could not even see this oak tree, and I didn't film any of it yesterday. It was that thick all through here. And I was taking down some of these maples. I wanted to leave this oak tree, and I wanted to leave all of the pines. But this is what I did with the mulcher. That was the first day with the mulcher. And then I did this area yesterday. So I got this path going through here. And this was all, you couldn't walk through here. You couldn't see through here. It looked just like that. And this is what that mulcher does. So you can see it is a big strain on the tractor. But anyways, I was reading about it, and folks were having this issue, and the dealer was telling them no problem. And that sensor might have some metal on it because it's magnetic, and just all these things that were scaring me, because that's an expensive tractor. It's $32,000 to replace that tractor. And I really thought I messed it up. So I was going through here. Again, it was thick. You can see how big a brush here that was being pulled into the mulcher. I was taking down some sizable trees, and here's my hand for the size of this brush that gets pulled into the mulcher. So anyway, I stopped from here and took the tractor out of the woods. But I was reading about this code, and There's a lot of knowledge out there on the internet, as you know, good and bad information. But they said there was a way you could hold the 2 buttons on the front dash of the Kubota, turn on the key, go into what's called B mode, and then you go into B mode and you could clear that code. So I cleared the code, and that doesn't mean you fixed the problem. That just means you cleared the code. And I said, well, if it comes back, I'll take it in, right? If I've done something that really has harmed the engine, then it's going to throw that code again. It'll repeat itself, and then I'll just quit using it. Well, I hooked the brush hog up to it, which is still a stressful machine if you have it full of grass or brush, but not nearly as stressful as the Baumolite forestry mulcher. And I went around the pond and I brush hogged all the pond with like 2 to 3 foot tall grass, and the tractor ran flawlessly. So at this point, I'm confident that the Kubota didn't get harmed yesterday, but I definitely have to be more careful with that brush mulcher because it puts such a load on the tractor. So that's where I was cleaning up there. And look at the size of these tree trunks or brush trunks that it just threw out here in the pasture. So today what I'm gonna do is go around to all those areas with the brush hog that I used the forestry mulcher and kind of grind it up a little bit with the brush hog. Before we get started brush hogging, I'm gonna sharpen the blades on it because I do want to do a couple passes around the edge of the property so that the grass isn't tall where Deb walks with Bella, and so that she can see the snakes before they see her. No error codes. The error code would be right under there. It would flash between the hours and the error code right there in the digital readout. I feel like I gave it a great workout on that pond bank, and I probably mowed for about an hour. I think the tractor's fine. It sounds fine, it's running fine. One thing my dad taught me when we were farming and we had to grease our equipment before we did our work day was to wipe off the grease fitting so that you didn't push dirt into the grease fitting. So leave a comment down below. Do you guys wipe off the grease fitting with a rag to knock that dirt off there? Or do you just put the coupling right on there and start pumping grease? I'm just going to touch up this blade a little bit. It's a little rough from hitting a lot of dirt yesterday and a lot of pebbles. And just touch it up so that they're sharp, so when I go around the edge of the property and cut off the grass, it'll cut it off cleanly. While the blades are sharp, the first thing I'm going to do is clean up this edge here. I'm pleased to report that the Kubota is running really good. The temperature gauge is about halfway where it should be, so that pleases me or makes me happy based on what happened yesterday. And no more check engine lights and no more codes. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm looking to see if it throws that code again, and if it does, then I'll take it into the dealership and have them diagnose it. But for now, it is just really running good, and I think I dodged a bullet there. So the lesson learned is definitely don't do that forestry mulching on a really hot day, or if you're going to do it on a hot day, don't do it to the point that you're really stressing out your tractor. I basically worked this whole edge. I backed in there a little bit where I've done some brush hogging before, but I haven't done in a couple years. Past couple weeks, I've been using that Baumolite forestry mulcher, and I've done so much land clearing with a brush hog that I feel like I'm good at it. And when I was backing in there, I forgot that when you back up with a brush hog, right here, it's going to cut your brush off, but a lot of times it'll like fall on the brush hog or get pushed back behind you. Whereas the forestry mulcher, if you hit that piece of brush right, it will actually suck it in and then demolish it. So I was kind of missing the forestry mulcher, but I'm going to be good to the Kubota and not run it today. Another thing about a brush hog, again, I haven't brush hogged a pasture in a while, is that the clippings, and I got corrected the other day because I call all this thatch, and I will continue to call it thatch because that's what comes to mind, but it's probably not technically accurate. These are called clippings. But the clippings are very long from the brush hog, because the brush hog comes in and hits that grass and knocks it off, and it doesn't do any mulching. And that's good and bad. And the bad part is, in the pasture, you want this chopped up as much as possible. So I'm not going to do any more complete mowing of the bahia grass out here. I'm going to mow it up tall because it's gone to seed, and I'll knock those seeds off, and I'll take it from about, I guess it's anywhere from 18 inches to 2 foot tall, and then knock it down to about 1 foot tall. And then I'll come in here with the finish mower here as fall comes and winter comes, and just really mulch this really good. So then it'll be organic matter in the soil for the pasture, and just keep improving the pasture. We're gonna just keep brush hogging today until I get too hot or I run out of fuel. But what I want to do is knock off the top of this grass. So you can see how tall it is through there, and that's one pass with the brush hog, and it's all gone to seed. So that's a seed head of bahia grass, and you can see all the seeds on there. And all I'm doing is knocking them off, and they'll go down to the ground and just keep reseeding this pasture. So I'm going to do this whole section here just by keeping the brush hog up high and then leaving about a foot. This is what we did so far. This whole edge through here, worked a little bit in the woods. All that down there, looking really good. But I got that knocked out there, and that just came out perfect, exactly how I wanted it. Knocked off the top of those grasses, put those seeds on the ground, and didn't create too much mulch. But as I was driving the tractor across there, I got thinking about a comment that someone left me recently. I was using the Summit tractor with our wood chipper. So we went out and bought a WoodMax wood chipper, and the Summit has 18 PTO horsepower. And occasionally I would stall the tractor, shoving in too big of pieces of wood, or it would go in too fast and it would stall the tractor. And the comment was something like, basically, that's real nice how you treat this free, and it's not free, we don't own it, but this sponsored piece of equipment. You wouldn't do that with your Kubota. And my response was, I treat this tractor just like I do my Kubota. And if it can't handle being stalled out once in a while, if it can't handle operating at its max capacity once in a while, and what's being seen in this wood chipper video, then I don't want it, and I don't want it on my channel. And his response back to me was basically, show me. And I just quit. I just quit after that. So I guess all that to say that most YouTubers, and I have done collaborations with Tony from Tony's Tractor Adventures, Brock from Rock Hill Farms, Lucas from Peaks Hobby Homestead, Brad from Copper Creek Cuts, Chad from Doss Farms, Ed from My Cluttered Garage. A really extensive list of really great people. They're doing what we're doing. I'm out here, I'm mowing, I'm talking about it, I'm showing you my tractor in action, I'm showing you when I messed up my tractor, or thought I did. And Hank Hamilton put it greatly in his video. He said it a couple times, and when he said, you know, when I have to go through those pearly gates, and I have to answer for all the things I've done in my life that maybe are not the greatest things, lying about a tractor is not going to be one of them. And I think from all the people I've mentioned, I think you can take that to the bank with them. They're just really honest people, but they're out there working on their land, and they're just kind of presenting content to you, showing you how to do things, or showing you how they do things, and just giving you just options out there for equipment purchases and how to use your equipment. And we all use it in different ways. That's why we like to say we're not a how-to channel, we're a how-we-do channel. But enough yapping. I'm going to go over there to the front of our property and mow in between those pines. I'll show you a little bit of that, and then we'll close out this video. Well, it's not perfect, but it looks better. It's just really hard to go in between these pine trees without skinning them. And I talk about that a lot on the channel, is we want to keep as many, mature pine trees that have potential to become lumber in the future. We try to take down the little trees, like this pine tree right here behind me. It's only 20 feet tall, never gonna ever amount to anything. That tree needs to come down. And we've thinned this out greatly. I've cut down a lot of these small spindly pine trees and dug out the stumps, and Now that we have the brush mulcher, we can just drop that right down on those little stumps and mulch them down, or grind them down, I guess. But I got that as good as I could. The ultimate goal is to be able to zero turn mow in there, but we're not there yet. We need it to be a little bit more level, and what I really need is a 4-foot brush hog, because I have a 5-foot one on there. It's just as wide as the tractor, and I need something a little narrower and a narrower tractor. Summit is only 54 inches wide, but we don't have a 4-foot wide brush hog. But once we get a smaller brush hog for the Summit, we'll be able to get in here and get all this ground up and leveled out where we can get a zero-turn mower in here. But this is the last section I'm gonna do right here and then call it a day. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate everything you do for us, and the opportunities that you watching our videos allows us, things like sponsored by Summit Tractors and Tractor Tools Direct. So thank you for all your support. If you're new here, consider subscribing. But until the next one, you all take care out there, and remember, life's short, tractor hard.